Hello, Bible readers. Our word for the day is covenantal. God is in a covenantal relationship with creation. But what does that mean? It's going to take me a little while to get there, so just bear with me. The stories we're talking about in these first 11 chapters, the 6 days of creation and the Sabbath, a second story about creation, the first sin and its punishment, Cain murdering Abel, the wickedness of humankind before Noah, the great flood, God's covenant with Noah, and then finally the Tower of Babel. These first 11 chapters are among the most important in all of Scripture. And they're among the best known stories in Scripture and the most misunderstood stories of Scripture. Not only do we have to work hard in learning about what they mean, but we also have to unlearn a lot of what they don't mean. Misunderstandings of substance likely occur, according to Brueggemann, because the style and character of the literature is misunderstood. As Brueggemann says, in these texts, there's almost no historical particularity. That's a hard one to swallow right away. They're talking about unlearning things. Other than the reference to specific peoples in chapters 10 to 11, and if you haven't read this yet, or if you have, remember these are the descendants of Noah and beyond. It's just a lot of ancestry stuff. Other than those couple chapters in 10 and 11, there is no concrete identification of historical persons, groups, movements, or institutions. Where individual persons are cited, like Adam and Eve, for example, they are treated as representatives of all creation, the part for the whole. We oftentimes like to think of Adam and Eve and others in Genesis as specific historical figures, as though there was an Adam that walked around the Garden of Eden, as though there was an Eve that was married to him, and so on. Brueggemann's saying that's not at all how this was intended as it was written, to be a part for the whole, a representative for a story. Remember, this is story. The only distinction made, according to Brueggemann, in these 11 chapters, it's not a historical distinction made, but the only distinction made is between human and non-human creatures. The interrelation of human and non-human creation is presented in three ways. They're both treated together equally, like when God makes a covenant with Noah and says, I'm establishing my covenant with you and every living creature that's with you, as many as come out of the ark. So there's equality. In other places, humans are treated as superior and non-humans subordinate. This maybe is the most familiar to us, like in Genesis chapter 1, when humans are said to need to have dominion over all of creation. There's a third way too, like in the strange Tower of Babel story. In that story, the rest of creation doesn't even get thought about. It's only about people. I bring this all up because the theologians of Israel, when they wrote this over many generations, they were wrestling with who is God and what does it mean to us that God is. What authority do humans have? What power do we not have? What order can we know? What freedom can we know? And as groups and people sit down over the millennia to make religious claims, whether it's Christianity or any other religious system, there's two extremes to how religions talk about these questions. One, they can explain everything in completely mythological terms, where the gods make the real decisions and people, their actions don't really matter at all. You know, this would be like Greek gods or Norse mythology or Roman. People are just at the mercy of the power of the gods. So the pendulum can swing the complete other way too. They could also explain everything as though there is no mythology or mystery. We could call this a scientific view of creation, where the world is completely understandable on its own terms. Meaning and significance can all be completely explained through the scientific workings of creation itself. Those are the two extremes. So here's what Genesis 1 to 11 does. The theologians of Israel, they want to affirm two things at the same time. That the ultimate meaning of creation is found in the heart and purpose of a creator. So you need to get comfortable with a certain level of mythology, something beyond the scientifically experienceable, but also that the world is positively valued by God for itself. So it can be and must be valued by the creatures to whom it's been entrusted. we can't just check out and say, God will take care of it. That mythological, all-powerful God will just take care of everything for us, as if only the mythological, mysterious side of meaning will tend to the creation's value. Creation has value unto itself, which deserves and actually requires our attention. And here's the point of all this stuff today. For us to say that Israel affirmed both the mythological and the scientific means there is a tension between these two sides, because by affirming both to be a part of explaining the truth of creation, what Genesis is saying is that neither is true all by itself. Neither mythology or scientificness is full of meaning all by itself. You may read that lots of cultures in the ancient Near East had a flood story, for example, or that lots of religions have a creation story, or have a Tower of Babel kind of story. But no other culture, when they sit down to explain the meaning of creation and the meaning of life, land in this tension. That it's neither mythological or scientific, but instead that it's somehow both. The tension that gets created in Israel's understanding is what Karl Barth called covenantal. Remember, that's our word for the day, covenantal. I got there. Covenantal is a word that affirms that the creator, the mythological side of things, and the creation, that's the observable scientific side of things, have to do with each other. Neither can be understood apart from the other. The creator has a purpose and a will for creation, and the creation has freedom to respond to the creator in various ways. And so it looks like and it feels like a relationship, because it is. That creation is in a mythological and scientific relationship with God is an Israelite, a Genesis idea. And we're still living into that idea today, because it's still a controversial thing to say that it's either or both. And we're saying both. So that's what makes this understanding of God and God's creation covenantal. It's a balance between myth and science, which only gets kept when we remember they're both there. So tomorrow I'm going to detail a few theological points in these first 11 chapters. If you haven't read those first 11 chapters, finish reading them. Journal your questions. Remember, loves, extras, questions. Share them with me at jason@firstlou.org. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.